Now here's the connection I mentioned earlier. Baal in our English Bibles is actually translated from the Hebrew phrase H-Baal, or the Lord. As was discussed before, we know that Habal was the god of the Kaaba and the god behind Allah. Just as Allah is the proper name of God in Islam, so Habal was the proper name of that god in the Kaaba. We also know that from tradition that Habal came from the north, centuries before Muhammad. What is not known for sure and only theorized is that what the Hebrews call H-Baal could be what the Arabs called Habal. If the Arabs who imported this god from the north knew that H-Baal was translated in local tongues as the Baal and not a proper name, they probably would have called it Al-Baal, Arabic for the Baal, but the Arabs called it Habal, making it a proper name in Arabic. If this is all true, and Habal is an import of H-Baal into Arab culture, then the entire religion of Islam could be said to be a modern repackaging of Baal worship. Now check this out. In Gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words, Wonder Woman synchronizes with Baal and Ashtaroth. Baal and Ashtaroth worship reappeared during the prophet Samuel's time. Samuel told Israel, "Put away the strange gods and Ashtaroth from among you, and prepare your hearts unto the Lord, and serve him only." Then the children of Israel did put away Baalim and Ashtaroth, and serve the Lord only. 1 Samuel chapter 7, verse 3-4. So Baal and Ashtaroth are gods. And guess what? Wonder Woman is a god. Ironically, pre-Muhammad, Arabic theology stated that Allah's daughter was the Greek goddess Aphrodite, Diana,
your powers.
whose name in Arabic is merely the feminine version of Allah, which is Allah. The Apostle Paul himself came against the worship of this stone in Acts chapter 19, verse 35, while at Ephesus, which was the seat of the worship of the moon goddess Diana. Remember that Allah is the moon god, masculine. Paul was preaching at Ephesus and converting many Diana worshippers to Christ. Remember the Aphrodite reference made earlier? She is the feminine version of Allah. She was the goddess of love and fertility, and in ancient times in the temples of Aphrodite were brothels and dens of iniquity. The ritual of touching the black stone is very sensual in nature. Muslims don't just touch it and move on. They kiss it and caress it in a very passionate manner. Both secular and Christian people who have observed this ritual over the centuries have noted that for many, it verges on being sexual. This is why Diana, the daughter or the feminine version of Allah, touches a stone, not the Kaaba stone, but the dream stone, and wishes that her old boyfriend was alive again, because she was the goddess of love and fertility. That's why when her boyfriend is brought back to life and they're reconnected again, we see the Washington Monument in the background, because it's representing a phallic symbol. It's male genitalia. That's why they're in the bed getting freaky, because she's the goddess of love and fertility. And the way he's kissing and caressing her is exactly what they do to the black stone, that Kaaba stone, because she's also representing the Kaaba stone, or the dream stone, in this movie, which also synchronizes with Ashtaroth in Gematria, because she's representing Baal and Ashtaroth, which is Allah. Satan was called Bel, Baal, and Beelzebub in both the Old Testament and New Testament. They're all the same name and mean the same thing. Bel, Baal, and Beelzebub is the cult of the crescent moon. The origin of Bel was Babylon, when Gideon defeated the satanic Midianites upon God's command. His last act was to tear the crescent symbols off the camels' necks to show the dominance and victory of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob over Satan. Psalm 83 tells exactly what nation Jesus fights when he returns, all of which are Muslim in modern times. It specifically states that he will do the same to them as Gideon did to Midian and his leaders. In other words, just as Gideon tore down the satanic symbol of the crescent moon, so would Jesus tear down the satanic crescent moon and star symbol all over the Middle East. Have you ever wondered why the predictions of emergence of the Antichrist in Europe aren't happening? Have you ever puzzled over the significance of fundamentalist Islam and the violence going on in the Middle East and how it might relate to the end times? Have you ever questioned where or when the detailed and dynamic unfolding of the Bible prophecy will happen in these last days? By looking at Bible prophecy from a different perspective than that of the popular theology today, your eyes will be open as never before. Far too many in the West fail to remember the actual context of the Bible. Too many Westerners read the Bible narcissistically. Many books have been written that revolve around the West and interpret history through a Western-centric lens. When I open the Bible for the first time, I read about the places where I grew up. I read about Bethlehem and Jericho. Far too many Westerners have missed the obvious fact that the Bible is thoroughly Middle Eastern. In the biblical worldview, Jerusalem is the center of the earth, not Europe or America. The biblical prophecies about the end times are no different. As we have seen throughout the scriptures repeatedly and abundantly, whenever specific nations are named and highlighted for judgment of God at the day of the Lord, apart from the Lord's chastisement against his own people, Israel, it's always pointing us to regions or nations that today are vastly dominated by Islam. Many prophecy teachers today claim that the religion of the Antichrist would be humanism or some form of all-inclusive religious pluralism. If this is the case, then one must also believe that the overwhelming majority of Middle Eastern nations today will convert from Islam to a belief system common in the West, but embraced by very few in the Middle East. Yet not once in the entire Bible is an exclusively European nation actually named in the context of judgment on the day of the Lord. The Bible certainly references European nations, but never in the context of his judgment. Yet this is where the majority of prophecy teachers have told us the Antichrist and his empire will emerge. What shall we conclude from this? How do we responsibly interpret these many passages? Shall we simply ignore these references, or should we claim that they are all to be taken allegorically, assuming that names such as Edom, Moab, Cush, Arabia, Assyria, Libya, Lydia, or Persia are meant to imply any or every nation in the world as a vague or general enemies of God and his people? This hyper-allegorical approach is actually very common when approaching these passages. As I've already stated, I find it irresponsible and not in keeping with conservative and literal hermeneutic. So as we approach the Bible to understand what it is saying with regards to the end times, the fourth rule is that we must take into consideration its proper context. We must be cautious not to read a Western worldview, a foreign context, into the pages of this Eastern book called the Bible. We must never forget its Middle Eastern, Israel-centric context. The Bible was not written primarily for Americans or Westerners. The Bible is a Jewish book with Middle Eastern emphasis and worldview. Westerners love to bank on Muslims who do not agree with Osama, but what these Western experts fail to realize is that for many of these so-called moderate Muslims, their only disagreement with Osama is his timing. Here is my challenge to the West, which I know that no one can refute. Westerners do not understand that when it comes to the Muslim world, even the most moderate of Muslims, if they are religious, all believe in the coming of the Mahdi and the establishment of the caliphate to rule the entire globe by changing world laws to adapt to the Islamic Sharia. The coming of the Mahdi to religious Muslims is as holy as a belief as the coming of Messiah to Christians and Jews.
Long live the champion! Long live the champion! Long live the champion!
Among the major signs, the most anticipated and central sign that Muslims await is the coming of a man known as the Mahdi. In Arabic, al-Mahdi means the guided one. He is also sometimes referred to by Shia Muslims as Sahib al-Zaman or al-Mahdi, al-Mantudar, which translated means the Lord of the Age and the awaited Savior. Black Adam synchronizes with the word al-Mahdi in Gematria because that's who Black Adam is. He is the Mahdi, leading the Muslims into world domination.
My point is, Kahndaq still isn't free. We could really use a superhero right about now.
I'm no hero.
What? Superman, Batman, Aquaman, you're way more stacked than any of them. And they're not coming to Kahndaq to save us.
But you could stop Intergang all by yourself, just like you did King Akton.
You're our only hope.
The Mahdi is the first of major signs. This is confirmed by Ibn Kathir, a renowned Muslim scholar from the 14th century. After the lesser signs of the hour appear and increase, mankind will have reached a stage of great suffering. Then the awaited Mahdi will appear. He is the first of the greater clear signs of the hour.
Why do you want Adam to surrender? He's the champion of Kahndaq. Who are you? The Justice Society? We have been living under military occupation for 27 years and never seen you before. You didn't come when Intergang invaded our country, when they stole our resources and killed my husband. But now, we finally have our own hero and you decide to fly down here and save us? Thank you, but we're covered.
The coming of the Mahdi is the central crowning element of all Islamic end-time narratives. So central to the Islamic eschatological expectations is the coming of Mahdi, that some Muslim scholars don't even refer to the minor signs as such, but instead refer to them as the signs accompanying the Mahdi. While there are some variations of belief between the Sunni and the Shia sects of Islam, and while certain quarters of Sunnis reject him altogether, general belief in Mahdi is not a sectarian issue within Islam, but is universal amongst most Muslims. According to Sheikh Mohammed Hisham Kabani, chairman of the Islamic Supreme Council of America, the coming of the Mahdi is established doctrine for both Sunni and Shia Muslims, and indeed for all humanity. In order to understand Islam properly, one must understand the way that Islam understands itself. Islam views itself as the only true religion, indeed the only religion worthy to be practiced. Islam has total world domination as one of its goals, to literally eradicate what it sees as the false and misplaced worship of all other religions. Until the day that everyone says none has the right to be worshipped other than Allah, Islam will continue to fight against unbelievers and unbelieving nations. The texts and scholars of Islam teach that all Muslims must strive for global domination at all times, not just wait idly by for the Mahdi and the Islamic Jesus to accomplish it for them. This striving for Islam's furtherance and eventual world domination is called jihad. Indeed, jihad is a basic requirement for all Muslims everywhere. It is absolutely obligatory component of Islam.
Islam is what is written in that book. If it is in the Quran, it is Islam. If it is not in the Quran, it's not Islam. You will never see in the Quran anywhere Allah use the word radical Muslim, but they use two words: Muslim believers, mu'minun, and kuffar, infidels. The whole world belongs to two groups: Muslim believers or infidels. And if you read the Quran, you will see that all Christian, all Jews, all non-Muslims must be put to death. That is the word of Allah. To tell me that when somebody believes in his book and practices his book is a radical, that is a nonsense.
Teth Adam first, then the crown.
You don't have any authority here. Teth Adam has done
Teth
nothing.
Adam is not who you think he is.
And how would you know?
We have access to ancient texts that have been kept secret for centuries.
And what exactly do these supposed ancient texts say?
They say that his rage nearly destroyed Kanda. We flew all the way over here to stop it from happening again.
In the Hadith, Muhammad says, as Allah opened with us, so he will close, and with us they will be safe from polytheism. According to Sheikh Abdullah bin Sadek, this means that Allah opened the religion with the Holy Prophet, so he will close it with Al-Mahdi. Therefore, Mahdi is the sealer of the appearance of the religion. As the blood descendant of Muhammad, Al-Mahdi is the resurrection of his dynasty, as well as the modern successor to the dead king of a war-devastated Saudi Arabia, rising from the ashes of the religion's birthplace to become the emperor of the world.
Teth Adam can't be Kandak's champion because he is not a hero.
Tell that to all the people he just liberated.
The Bible teaches that the Antichrist will strive for complete world domination. The Apostle John informs us that in the last days, power will be given to him over all peoples and tongues and nations, Revelation 13:7. This is confirmed by Jewish tradition as well. He will deceive the whole world to believe that he is God and will reign over the entire world. What the Bible warns us of is exactly what Islam is. The renowned Muslim scholar Maulana Sayyid Abdul Allah Madidi from the Indian subcontinent stated, Islam is not a normal religion like the other religions in the world. Muslim nations are not like normal nations. Muslim nations are very special because they have a command from Allah to rule the entire world and to be over every nation in the world. Islam is a revolutionary faith that comes to destroy any government made by man. This is why the name of the antagonist in the movie is Ishmael.
Mom,
Amun.
I got home.
Ismail was in the kitchen.
Ishmael's dead.
No, he shot Uncle Kareem.
And he's after the crown.
Ishmael is Abraham's son in the Bible and the progenitor of the Arabian peoples. The son thus born, Ishmael, is Abraham's legal son and heir. When Isaac is later born by Sarah, the elder son is disinherited by divine command against Abraham's wish, which represented the prevailing law and custom. Genesis chapter 17, verse 19 and 21. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and I will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this set time in the next year. So in the Bible, Abraham, one of the 3 patriarchs of the children of Israel, was promised by God that he will beget many nations, and kings will come for him. But one of the nations will be the nation of the covenant, the chosen. The covenant expressed that if the chosen offspring keeps the covenant, the law, statutes, and commandments, they will basically be the rulers of the world, leading nations into righteousness, and being the light unto the Gentiles. Page 15. Another theological difference is the covenant with God. In the Bible, the Lord makes his everlasting covenant with Isaac, promising that his chosen people, Israel, will spring forth from Isaac, and that God will give to Israel the promised land. The Muslims claim that the followers of Moses, who wrote the Torah, corrupted this record, and that God made the everlasting covenant with Ishmael, Abraham's oldest son, with his maid Hagar instead. Thus, the Muslims claim that God's chosen people are not the Jews, and that all the land of the Middle East, as outlined in Genesis chapter 15, verse 18 to 21, belongs to them. This is why Ishmael in the movie Black Adam wanted the crown, because Ishmael in the Bible, the progenitor of the Arabians, was Abraham's firstborn, and they feel that the covenant, rulership of the earth, was given to them by God instead of Isaac. It is crucial for Westerners to understand that the fundamental duty of Islam is to Arabize the world, to unite humanity under one language, one government, one religion, Islam.
Allah, the God of Muhammad, cannot be the God of the Bible for a very simple reason. Allah, the God of Muhammad, Quran chapter 1 verse 1, he stated, first verse in the Quran, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. 2 Corinthians 4:4 assured us that the God of this world, the Lord of this world, is Satan. Allah in the Quran told us in a couple of verses that he is the best deceiver. That's Quran chapter 3 verse 54, Quran chapter 8 verse 30. Hum makar wallahu makar wallahu khairul makirin. They deceive and Allah deceive, and Allah is the best deceiver. The only best deceiver we know in the Bible is Satan.
This is why the crown that Ishmael wanted was called the crown of Sabak, because in Gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words, Sabak and Satan synchronize, because the New World Order will be Satan's kingdom.
He kidnapped Ammon on purpose because he knew that Teth Adam would kill him. And he believed the champion's magic would send him to the Rock of Finality.
As life is the path to death.
Your death is a path to life. The wizards have their champion. Now we have ours. You will take the throne of Kandak and unleash hell on earth. Speak our name.
Sabak.
And now Ishmael actually turns into Satan, because this final kingdom, the New World Order, will be spearheaded by Islam, the Antichrist religion. John the Apostle defines the spirit of the Antichrist this way: who is the liar? It is a man who denies that Jesus is the Christ. Such a man is the Antichrist. He denies the Father and the Son. No one denies the Son has the Father. Whoever acknowledges the Son has the Father also. 1 John chapter 2, verse 22 through 23. According to Islamic doctrine, if Allah is compared to anything on the earth, this belittles him. As such, the Quran teaches that Allah is not the Father, one who begetteth, and is certainly not the Son, the one who is begotten. Say he is Allah, the One, Allah, the eternally besought of all. He begetteth not, nor was begotten, and there is none comparable unto him. Surah 112, verse 1 through 4. Following are 2 passages from the Quran that specifically deny the sonship of Jesus. In this first passage, Christians are attacked as blasphemers. They said, "The Most Gracious have begotten the Son. You have uttered a gross blasphemy. The heavens are about to shatter, the earth is about to tear asunder, and the mountains are about to crumble, because they claim that the Most Gracious have begotten a Son. It is not befitting the Most Gracious that he should beget a son." Surah chapter 19, verse 88 to 92.
Quran chapter 3 verse 151. Allah said, we will cast the terror into the heart of those who became infidels. You know which infidels he's talking about? He's talking about the Christian. As it said, those who partner with Allah, which he did not send down with any authority. If you worship Jesus Christ, you become an infidel. Quran chapter 5 verse 72 stated, infidel indeed are those who said that Christ, son of Virgin Mary, is God. That is all Christians. Quran chapter 5 73, Allah said, infidel indeed are those who said that Allah is a third of three. If you believe in Trinity, you're a Christian. If you believe in Father, Son, Holy Spirit, you are an infidel.
Now, Muslim apologists and propagandists would be quick to argue that jihad is not about fighting for world domination. Some will make such misleading remarks as jihad is merely about overcoming adversity, or they'll point out that the greater jihad is a struggle against oneself. While this inner struggle is a legitimate aspect of jihad, do not be deceived. The jihad that is obligatory for all Muslims to fight against one's inner weaknesses in no way lessens the centrality of the demand of Islam upon all Muslims to wage jihad against the unbelieving world until Islam reigns supreme. This may include warfare in the intellectual, political, or other arenas, but wherever a Muslim engages in this fight, it is viewed as just that, a fight for the eventual global domination and universal supremacy of Islam.
Allah, the God of Muhammad, has no son, and anyone who believes that Jesus Christ is the Son of God is an infidel and must be put to death by the hand of the Muslim who worships the God of that book, the Quran, Allah, who is nothing but Satan.